Water, the lifeblood of this world, yet you squander it until it grows scarce. But I am still generous. From my timeless depths, I send it to you, pure and life-giving. My ancient pores distill each droplet, crystal clear. My peaks breathe it out as rapids, cascading tirelessly into mountain streams. Gifts for you, though I wonder if you truly cherish them. I am the gateway to Transylvania. Reach me, and you will find inner silence. Here, you will see, hear, and feel that even water knows how to make music. Change is coming, and you can endure only if you change as well. You must leave your old ways of life behind, just as the gilled stonefly larva leaves the water behind. Entering this new phase of life will not be easy for any of you, for your old ways now hold nothing but ruin. The stonefly larva has never been on dry land, and you have never walked the path of conscious harmony with nature. Every living organism longs for you to find this path soon. But first, you must shed your larval skin. You must abandon your parasitic ways upon the environment. The stonefly larva succeeded in its transformation, but you can also learn from other creatures that live around my waters, beings who have mastered the art of leaving behind their familiar worlds. There's a bird that literally dives beneath the water. The white-throated dipper is primarily interested in the insects living below the surface. The mayfly dancing in the air is more likely to attract the attention of the brown trout, which also becomes an environment shifter in moments like these. A lightning-fast small mammal can leave dry land behind. The water shrew produces large amounts of myoglobin in its muscles, a protein responsible for storing oxygen, much like whales and seals. This tiny creature, half the size of a mouse, spends half its life diving into icy waters, using the same strategy as marine mammals. If they were able to adapt to an entirely new way of life, then so can you. for the sake of us all. Winter, spring, summer, and autumn have passed 145 million times since I was created here, surrounded by the Carpathians. I am the watershed between the Pannonian Plain and the Transylvanian Basin. This is Tsara Motilor, or the land of the Mots, and you call me the Apusén Mountains. The water has shaped and is still shaping me. I am hiding the most developed karst region of the Carpathian Basin on the Padish Plateau. All the varieties of karst phenomena of the world can be found here. It's a world of sinkholes, potholes, uvulas, caves, underground glaciers, diving streams, islets, and bulrushes. You have named the landscape that begins here, Transylvania, after my endless forests. Hundreds of years old, wild beech and pine forests that have never been cut down, one of the last remnants of the primeval forests of the Carpathian Basin. As soon as the snow begins to melt on the Padish Plateau, the purple flowers of the Carpathian crocus emerge from the ground. The summer sheep shelter on the Bal Meadow, sitting at an altitude of 1,200 meters, is now deserted. The Mots shepherd will only bring his flock up later, when it is certain to stop snowing. As evening approaches, the petals gradually close. The Bal Meadow and other surrounding high pastures wake up to a crisp dawn, even after the crocus flowers have bloomed. The frozen cold of the night creates a mist, which is then played with by the warm rays of the rising sun. In the dewy grass lies a common European viper, frozen by the morning chill. Even in its stillness, it frightens you, although it is telling that most of the very rare viper attacks are not on the victim's leg, but on the hand, that which tries to catch the animal. The shepherds living here, the Mots, are the most distinctive Romanian-speaking ethnic group in western Transylvania. In the past, they were willing to settle in the difficult terrain between the mountains in exchange for considerable benefits. Snakes have no hearing. Instead, they feel the vibrations of the ground. Sensing the footsteps of hundreds of approaching Yimeshirotska sheep, the viper slithers as fast as its frozen body will allow. The stream snakes across the Ponor meadow as silently as the viper has just meandered through the grass. Here, I can show you what peace is. My green hillsides, my gentle stream, exude an almost otherworldly calm. On the spacious clearing, a family of ravens play. The young raven stares in wonder, but without alarm, at the arriving flock. The diving stream from my highest springs emerges from under the rock face here, in the upper corner of the Ponor meadow. Gray wagtail live and raise families at the gushing spring. The stream that flows from the rock overflows the Ponor meadow. At the other end of the clearing, there is no way out on the surface. The valley, with no outlet, is enclosed by higher mountains. There is no slope where the water can flow on, so it carves a downward path. At the lower end of the meadow, it plunges back into the earth, through a few sinkholes. I am by far the most precipitous mountain in Romania. From the Great Plains of the Carpathian Basin, the westerly air currents can drift unhindered towards me. From Lake Balaton to here, I am the first mountain range in their way, and when we meet, they yield to my cool call. The climate of my forests is colder than the surrounding plains. So I often tap the clouds and send the water back westwards, by streams and rivers, to where it came from. My throbbing veins swell with rain. The tide takes on the color of the washed-out sediment, its shade different for each stream's environment and personality. This stream you call Galbena, meaning yellow, and now it will show you why. The reddish-brown tide on the Boga stream, which flows into it, only reaches the river later. The merger of the Galbena and the Boga becomes the Crișul Pietros River. When it floods, it rushes westwards. After heavy rains, the Ponor Gorge's gullies are unable to drain the swollen stream. An intermittent lake is formed in the meadow. The bird life of the Ponor meadow and the surrounding forests is wonderfully rich. In one spot, a dunnock sings. Not far off, a northern wheatear gathers nesting material. The ring ouzel picks worms for its chicks in the rain-damp grass. In the forest, puddles remain for a long time. The young of the jay and black woodpecker have recently fledged. They are quenching their thirst and trying their first bath. They are interrupted by a fearsome visitor. The goshawk, a dangerous hunter, but now it too just wants to bathe. The mountain water echoes with the croaking of the yellow-bellied toad. Some singers may need a little warm-up. A smooth newt and an alpine newt play tug-of-war with an earthworm. The alpine newt is much larger and stronger. The smaller smooth newt resorts to a trick reminiscent of crocodiles to claim its prize. The mountain soil is soaked with moisture. It's mating season for the smooth newts. The males release pheromones and fan the alluring scent towards the chosen female with their tails. The females eagerly follow the males until there are too many of them. In the ditches along the roads, alpine newts swarm alongside the spotted ones. Here, an alpine newt female is surrounded by 3 males. It's all about the pheromone fanning. But this female is already carrying fertilized eggs. To lay them, she climbs up the stalk of a plant and immediately folds the leaves onto the sticky eggs. The mating season for alpine newts will end in a week or 2. The knights shed their wedding outfits and adopt a much more puritanical appearance, more suited to the terrestrial lifestyle. They leave the water until next spring. Their newly hatched offspring will live an aquatic lifestyle until autumn. They obtain oxygen from the water through gill fins protruding from their heads. They feed on small pond-dwelling creatures, which are not always easy to catch. If they are, sometimes too much mud is swallowed with them. Restless water bugs are a source of much annoyance. The ones that are too small to be dangerous never look where they're headed. The pond, which appears and disappears, doesn't soak the grass for long. Ponor's gullies usually drain it in a few days. And once again, only the gentle stream flows through the meadow. The Carpathian riverine ground beetle is now able to attempt the crossing. This beetle is not able to fly, but it can stay underwater for about 20 minutes. Here, even above 1,000 meters, the eccentric diving songbird, the white-throated dipper, is a common sight. The ground beetle would be too big and too hard-shelled for it. The two very different species may therefore indulge in surprisingly similar diving habits near each other. A lost teal is a rare visitor here, and probably has no idea where this water comes from, or where it goes. Like a gigantic drain, the Fortress of Ponor is the main collection point for underground rivers from the surrounding mountains. The collapse of the huge cave forefields, besieged by the water, has revealed the cross-section of a huge karst formation. The madly rushing stream disappears into the yawning mouth of a cave. The entrance could comfortably accommodate a 20-story tower house. The water then bore through the mountain for nearly 5 miles, forming a chain of 14 ever-dark underground lakes, before disappearing into the walls of a 120-meter-high cave hall. Whether there is a way out is still my secret. You discovered the Fortress of Ponor about 130 years ago. And since then, more and more of you have come to admire it, along with the whole of Padish. Perhaps what attracts you so much is that some of my caves were your cradles. Tens of thousands of years ago, they were inhabited by cavemen. For me, it seems like yesterday. I am 145 million years old. Never in this time have I heard so much noise, never felt so much trampling feet and wheels. you just keep coming and coming to see me. Some arrive as guests, others as if returning to the birthplace of their species. You're reshaping everything, leaving your mark in every corner. In the heart of the karst, on the Glavoy Meadow, you show us what it truly means to feel at home. Tonight will be cold, so you build yourself a fire with what you're not ashamed to use. The choking smoke lingers heavily over the valley floor at sunrise. You awaken slowly and late, then tend to the quiet demands of necessity. One of humanity's primary goals is to make its mark. And perhaps this is the one goal you truly excel at. On land, in water, and in the air, enduring reminders ensure that I won't forget you anytime soon, even long after you are gone. From time to time, though, I do get a break from you. The Glavoy Meadow where so many of you recently swarmed, now stands silent. Your structures sit abandoned. Even Biserika Motzilor, that ancient sanctuary you built on a dizzying mountain peak, sees less of you. My valleys lie buried under snow, as tall as a person. It cools the traces you've left behind, and soothes like a balm. I am unreachable now. My paths are difficult, if not impossible, to traverse. The animals can breathe a little easier, though this is a hard season for them as well. When you lived as they did, you struggled on my slopes and seldom ventured here. Now, only during times like this are my innermost valleys and highest peaks, where no roads exist, free from your noise. There, creatures stronger than you dwell, and yet they are kinder. The wildcat is a master of stealth, moving through its world in delicate harmony, taking only what it needs to survive. Meanwhile, the chaffinch understands that the sharp cries of the jay signal danger. The wildcat cannot evade the watchful gaze of the jay. That eagle-eyed sentinel with an uncanny ability to ambush predators for sport, as if relishing the mischief. The cat, in turn, feigns indifference to such antics, but the urgency of securing food grows as the weather worsens. In these times, both hunter and prey sense the wisdom of retreat. Small animal tracks dot the freshly fallen snow, yet the smallest of them leave no trace at all. The winter cranefly defies the frost with remarkable resilience. Its body fluids are rich in sugars and specialized proteins that halt the formation of tiny ice crystals in its cells, allowing it to survive even in the harshest freezing conditions. Insects in the snow? Even seasoned observers might be surprised. Who, for instance, has heard of a wingless mosquito? Your scientists are only beginning to uncover the mysteries of the snowfly. On the shimmering surface of snow crystals, more than half a dozen insect species roam with quiet determination. Amid this frozen stillness, my waters remain alive, rushing onward. Streams like Bulbuk Creek, which tumbles down a series of 3 rapids, flow relentlessly, with the final drop plunging an impressive 20 meters. Here, deep in this untamed winter landscape, the Ural owl soars, rarely encountering the presence of humans, especially at this time of year. In my upper valleys, the waters have a hard time finding or breaking through the surface outlet. They have crept into me, and even I don't always know where they're going. Emerging, they have carved deep ravines in me, painlessly, even pleasantly, with the patient caress of millennia. One valley is narrow, the other wide, but in the end, they will meet, and from the streams, a river will flow. The water's fate is eventually to leave me. They must unite with each other in the distance. But they will return someday, in a different form, transformed from the sky. While they are with me, my waters are transparent, naively clear. They easily reveal the sometimes strange creatures that live in them. The bullhead's favorite food is the caddisfly larva. But not when it's parading in its armor, built from the debris of the bed. The bullhead, known by the people of Bihor as the stonefish, lives up to its name. It hides among the rocks all day long. It shuns the light, retreating from its touch. This is the valley of Sigistel. From the western side of me, a stream carves its way toward Crișul Negru, winding through a long, narrow canyon with graceful curves. Winter's grip loosens first here, in my lower outermost valleys. Among the cave's thick icicles hides the old nest of a water ouzel. I hope its owner will return soon. The stream's water is drinkable, a rare thing you've left behind. The gentle waters of Sigistel flow like cool, transparent silk, softly caressing the rocky bed. You are beginning to understand the importance of clean water, yet even this stream commands none of your respect. As the snow begins to melt, the grass frogs awaken from their hibernation in the high-altitude springs. They must quickly make their way to the breeding grounds at the foot of the mountains, and they do so with the ingenuity of extreme athletes. They let the rushing streams carry them, traveling remarkably fast for frogs. Riding the current, they can cover many kilometers, journeying to where the valleys widen and the flowing waters give way to calm, mirror-like pools along the streams. As the male frogs prepare for mating, their forelimbs swell, and a darkened nub grows on their thumbs, allowing them to grip the females more tightly. Once they find a mate, the males cling to the females with a near-melting embrace, wrapping themselves around their backs. The frogs gather not only in the calm floodplains, but also in puddles at the forest's edge. Their time is short. Both their mating and the transformation of their offspring must be completed before the snow melt from the higher regions and the rains of early spring subside. For now, they wait for evening. They won't begin mating until then. Only the peaks of my highest snowfields remain bathed in the pale light of dusk. At the start of the mating season, the earliest pairs lay their first clusters of eggs at night. In smaller numbers, they feel safer under the cover of darkness. By day, only the males remain. They patiently wait for the new females that will arrive with the next evening. Their presence is barely noticeable. The egg clusters provide the perfect cover for a waiting male to hide beneath. At the peak of the breeding season, the frog army swells into legions. Mating becomes a mass occurrence. The valley fills with the deep croaking calls of the frog pairs. The egg clusters multiply, eventually covering several square meters in a continuous mass. Capricious clouds parade across the sky, but they offer no more rain. Without it, the runoff from the puddles drains away, leaving the eggs to dry. An occasional spring downpour arrives as a salvation. In the newly rescued eggs, the embryos slowly begin to stir. A black stork watches from above, its gaze fixed on the puddles below. It has come for the tadpoles, or perhaps even an adult frog. Then you too make your entrance. It's banned, but no one checks. There is no road here. The valley has become a dead end. Your vehicles carve through the Sigistel Valley aimlessly, just for fun. Even those living in the water are not safe. Spring continues its path. The birds have found their voices even in the inner reaches of the Sigistel Valley. One day, the dipper will once again hover above the water. It spent the winter further down the streams, but for many years, it has returned here to nest. Its white throat and breast offer a beacon of light as it inspects the dark crevices beneath the water. It searches for aquatic invertebrates. With a unique flight pattern, it uses its wings to keep itself submerged, flying in reverse to stay low. Unlike other birds, whose hollow air-filled bones give them buoyancy, the dipper's bones are solid and dense, reducing lift underwater. Its flight is heavy, thanks to those dense bones. It rarely strays from the stream's line. Each year, it raises 2 broods, starting its family early in the abundance of underwater food. In nests built in the cave's recesses, fledglings already hatch by mid-April. The parent bird often uses the water drain pipe as a sort of intermediate step on its way to the nest. This springing movement helps it remain hidden in the pulsing, watery environment. The chicks never soil the nest. The 8-kilometer canyon of Sigistel is one of the longest laugh lines on my face. Its waters remain so pure because you do not inhabit its banks. In the narrow valley, there is simply no room for houses. The inner end of the gorge is the narrowest part of my canyon, just enough space for a person between the towering cliff faces. If you've walked the pathless stream valley and cautiously slipped between my walls, you cannot go further. I've built a wall here, with a refreshing well at its base as a reward for those who make it this far. Beyond this point, the narrow gorge belongs to me, alone. The true inhabitants of the Sigistel Valley are the bats. A human might not visit for weeks, but they, even during the day, fly out over the stream to feast on the rich world of insects that swarm above. On these few kilometers, over 200 caves serve as homes for the 9 bat species that live here. Through its pulsing breathing hole, you can see its beating heart. The Carpathian blue slug can grow up to 20 centimeters long. With its striking color, you call it the most beautiful slug in Europe. On both sides, springs rise at every turn, creating cradles for the tadpoles of the grass frogs. Here, they can develop undisturbed. The fire salamander visits the stream with a clear purpose. Not a particularly skilled swimmer, it quickly pulls itself from the current and finds a spot to settle for reproduction. The salamander does not lay eggs. The gilt larvae will emerge ready to live on their own. The salamander is a slow creature, but it has little to fear. Its skin toxins protect it from any enemy. The more experienced mothers seek the quieter parts of the stream bed. Here, after long moments of concentration, the birthing begins. Some larvae shed their egg sacs only after birth. They may arrive in still waters or fast-moving currents. they find the right spot on their own. Their larval life lasts until the end of the summer, when the distinctive yellow spots begin to appear. Soon after that, they leave the water. One day, the dipper's nestlings scatter. At feeding time, the parents find the waiting chicks by their calls, here and there. The young dipper is still afraid of the water. The parent, accompanying it, tirelessly searches for food, as if he knows the time to raise it is running out. All that's left is to wait for the chick to catch on to diving. Perhaps it's better if they watch the parent dive, catching the tasty beetles from the stream bed. The caddisfly larvae must be carefully removed from their cases, using a well-practiced method. Now the chick can observe everything that it couldn't from the nest. Soon, the moment will come when it too becomes curious about the underwater world. Nearby, one parent is diving. The chick just needs to watch and imitate. For now, like life in a kiddie pool. The chick, diving more skillfully and boldly each time, might secretly hope that its father will glance over and notice its progress. But the parent isn't looking. The meal refuses to leave its shell. It would rather split it too, but the larva doesn't allow itself to be pulled out. The stream, teeming with life, continues to pour out food, nourishing the young dipper and allowing it to grow strong. In just a few days, the trees have turned a deeper green. At the highest peak of my domain, the 1,849-meter-high Bihor Peak, snow still clings to the forests in mid-May. The long Bihor Saddle forms the east-west watershed. The steep western side gives rise to Crișul Negru, while the gentler eastern slopes carry the Arieș River. The Arieș is named for the gold hidden in its bed. which was washed out centuries ago. You exchanged it, though, for something else: trash. Among all the rivers, the Ariësh is the most polluted. The Abrud stream adds mining waste to the residential refuse, turning the Ariësh River into a murky, hazardous waterway, even when it's not flooding. Flowing towards the Mureş, it passes behind the Trascou Mountains. Here lives the strongest predator bird of the Carpathians, the golden eagle. Smaller predators attack in vain. Even a deer might fear it. When she has her young, the prey must be carried up to her nest, perched on the skyward cliffs. From the foot of the mountain, she might need to rise up to 500 meters. The over 100-year-old nest was built by one of the eagle's ancestors on an inaccessible precipice. The resting, brooding female waits for the awakening of her one-day-old chick with the remains of a freshly caught deer fawn. The neck bones of the deer snap under the powerful legs and dangerous beak, now transformed into tools for nurturing. You aren't at peace, even here, between heaven and earth. You, seated on your loud machines, try to experience the eagle's domain, intruding on the true ruler of the skies. Luckily, this old female has strong nerves. She doesn't leave her nest. She gives only an occasional indifferent glance at your aircraft and continues feeding her chick. The golden eagle was born a top predator, every ancestor of its kind ruling for millions of years. It contributes to the health of its prey populations and plays an important role in protecting the plants they graze on. It knows how to rule without harming its domain or its subjects. But for you, the intelligent species, such a balance is harder to achieve. Let me show you the part of me you've infected the most, the part that is making me fatally ill. Here, Not far from the Eagle's Kingdom, in the valley of the Ariège, there are historical ore sites. You flood entire valleys with lethal toxins for just a few tons of extracted copper. The sulfuric acid and cyanide are freely absorbed by the soil and are carried away by the streams. In your greed, you don't even spare yourselves. Jeamana, once a picturesque mountain village, has now become a ghost town. You say the cherries withered first, then the rivers turned red, as if blood had been spilled. The still operating copper mine's toxic sludge has flooded the entire valley, including the village of Jeamana. You build the dam higher and higher every year, as the toxin levels rise by a meter annually. Not everyone wanted to or had the ability to leave. Those still here are increasingly threatened by the toxic flood. Most stayed because their family members rest in the old cemetery, 20 meters below the sulfuric acid. At the bottom of the valley, the Ariège flows toward the Mureş. Every day, it gets a little closer to a catastrophe. How much higher can the toxins rise? How long will the dam hold? Tick, tock. This environmental bomb is ticking. If you found gold or copper in the majestic bulk of Seikaiku, would you flood the beautiful village of Rimetao with poison too? Not long ago, Jeamana was just like that, alive, breathing with the landscape, breathing with me. Today, on this beautiful day, I feel something has changed in you. You know it too. Something must change, or you will destroy everything, including yourselves. The evening is calm. The true rulers of the land, amidst their family joys, sense that today is unlike the others. Down in the village, you are beginning to gather. You are celebrating National Unity Day. Perhaps one day, the nature that sustains you will also be a part of that celebration. I believe that in time, you will rise above the grievances of your people and begin to address the true wounds. Then you will come together and with your profound knowledge heal the nature you have tainted with your own afflictions. In doing so, you will save yourselves. It may already be too late. So why not begin today? But then, as I so often realize, nature is nothing more than a prop for you. I'm just the backdrop. You know full well that eagles nest upon the cliffs, but you yearn to see your flashing lights reflected upon their stone faces. Every year at this time, when the chicks are in the nest, you seek to see your bright flashes mirrored by the rock. If the startled parents flee from their helpless chicks because of the blinding lights and deafening noise, those chicks will starve and perish in just days. Happy National Unity Day. But the eagle chick no longer belongs to anyone. And you, perhaps, never truly wanted to either.